Okay, we're back in session. It's 12:45. We have two people on the line as well, which is Reeve Link and Councillor Laprise. So we're on 4.1 CAO Officer Report.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration. On page 162 of your agenda package is the monthly report for the CAO for June, as well as the resolution tracker. There are two resolutions attached to this report. You'll note in the CAO report the actions taken by the CAO, as well as our HR recruitment. We're doing an extensive recruitment currently underway for some vacant positions, as well as some training. You'll note on page 162. The resolution tracker continues on page 164 of your agenda package. Yellow denotes that resolution is outstanding, and green denotes that they are completed resolutions. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. The report's on page 162. Is there any questions? If not, we have two resolutions in front of us.
I'll move that Council accepts the June 2022 Chief Administration Officer report as information.
Thank you. A motion from Councillor Laprise. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried.
I move that Council accept the July 5th, 2022 Council Resolution Trackers information.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 4.12 Board Representative Appointment, Wheatland Housing Management Board. I did circulate an email too from Councillor Bigger. She's not in attendance, but she did put via email that she would let her name stand for the position if she was nominated. Hopefully everybody had saw that, seen that. So I will...
I nominate Donna Bigger.
I'll open the floor to nominations. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'll nominate Donna Bigger to sit on the Wheatland Housing Management Board.
Okay, that's from Councillor Priest. Sorry, your voices are really close. It's hard to tell the difference. If I say the wrong person, I apologize.
Oh, I should introduce myself. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I think it might be the cold.
It's Shannon.
Yeah.
It is, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, though. So there's a motion on the floor to nominate Councillor Bigger for the seat. Is there any other nominations? I have to do this 3 times, correct? Asking for a second time, is there any other nominations for the Wheatland Housing Management Board seat? Third and final time, asking if there's any further nominations for the Wheatland Housing Management Board seat. I congratulate Councillor Donna Bigger in her absence, and she will be added to the Wheatland Housing Management Board. However, this will add an alternate position. So we have to move into that role. Are we able to do that today?
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council, if there is someone that does step up, we could do it today. You'll note on page 171 of your agenda package, the recommendation, so to appoint blank as the Wheatland County representative, so obviously Councillor Bigger, and then blank as an alternate representative.
So we'll deal with the alternate before we deal with the motion.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. So we'll open up the floor for nominations for an alternate for Wheatland Housing Management Board.
So a question to you, Scott. I know you had resigned as a full member, but would you consider sitting as an alternate?
I decline that without getting into it further.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Okay. Thank you for considering.
Yes, thank you. So again, we're looking for an alternate position for the Wheatland Housing Management Board.
Reeve Link, would you consider sitting as an alternate? Yes, I believe I'm the only councillor who has not resigned from the board, so I would let my name stand. Full disclosure with, some hesitation, but recognizing that we should have our seats filled and it would be good to have an alternate appointed, I would let my name stand.
Thank you, Reeve Link. Is there any other nominations for the position of alternate for Wheatland Housing Management Board? For this second time, is there any other nominations for the position of alternate at Wheatland Housing Management Board? The third and final time, is there any other nominations for the position of alternate at Wheatland Housing Management Board? Okay, nominations cease. I congratulate Reeve Link on the alternate position. We have a recommendation for administration and I'll just do it, to appoint Councillor Bigger as a Wheatland County, I'll make the motion to appoint Councillor Bigger as a Wheatland County representative and Reeve Link as an alternate for representative to the Wheatland Housing Management Body for the remainder of the 2021-2022 term. There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Not. I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? It's carried. We'll move on to 4.21, Corporate and Financial Services Report. Page 174. When you're ready, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Council. Tracy from Administration. Rather than going through my report, I'd like to take up this time to discuss budget engagement. So as part of the process in 2021, administration collaborated with Othello and created a budget engagement process for residents to complete online. This engagement allowed residents to vote and comment on services provided by the county. The 2021 budget engagement report is attached to this report. And administration is looking to hold engagement in September of 2022. We did not have, we had budget engagement, but in the form of those that were campaigning, speaking to all of our residents, and then bringing all those comments and that feedback to the budget discussions. So I would like to recommend that we have budget engagement in September, and I'm wondering, I'd like to get feedback from council on the engagement we did in 2021, and if you would like to have the same kind of engagement, or if you would like administration to do this in-house. The cost has increased. It's approximately around $7,000. So just your thoughts. The pros are it should be easier to add all the input into it. We would keep it similar so that we can compare 2021 to 2022. We can add a few new questions, but also at the same time, we can likely save a lot of money and perhaps do SurveyMonkey or something like that and save that money as well. So just looking for your comments.
Okay, thank you. Administration is looking for some feedback on previous budget engagement with public. Yeah, I'd like to hear from anybody what they think. Floor is open. Go ahead.
This is Shannon.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I like the idea of doing it in-house if we can. My only comments, I guess, when I looked at the survey that's here, I wonder if we could add more details around when you're asking a person, based on the current level of services provided by fire, how would you adjust your property tax? I wonder if we should add more details about what fire actually, what services are provided. So maybe not, fire is maybe a little more obvious, but funding peace officers and funding agriculture and environment. I think those two things, people might not exactly know what's included in that, and so in those ones, they kind of thought a decrease might be in order, but I'm not sure they understand what really the services are being offered. So those are my comments.
That's great input. Councillor Tester?
I like the idea of it. Yeah. Just wondering how long before, like, I'd like to give some thought to a couple things if we were to bring it back in September or August meeting. We don't have a meeting in August, do we?
We have a meeting in August. I believe in the middle of August.
August, is that a council meeting? Okay.
16th of August.
16th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that would still be enough time.
Yeah, if council would like to proceed with Othello, I can certainly start providing information, and then we can add questions or anything that council would like as well. I could have
For me.
a draft or something. Yeah,
Works for me.
yeah, that would be fine.
'Cause I heard good comments about it.
Okay.
Right. Just have to be prepared to answer if we listen to them or not.
Any further comments, questions? For myself, it was a one-time deal. I'd like to see it, people kind of get used to that and to go back and do it again, so you see if it picks up or drops off. I think it's good to follow up for a couple rounds and see if it starts dropping off and people aren't really that interested, then you know it was a one-time thing, but I think it's important to follow up on it.
Okay.
If we can do it in-house, that's
And again,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say the same sort of thing, but to see the trends in how people feel about the various services too is kind of interesting to see. Doing it again, I'm saying.
I'm not hearing any opposition.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Go ahead, Reeve Link.
I fully support conducting the engagement again. I thought there was a lot of value in it. I like Councillor Custer's idea of just taking a little bit more time to contemplate additional potential questions. I also recognize the value in maintaining everything that we acquired data on last time. My question to administration is just around capacity to do it in-house. If we have capacity, or if administration sees value in contracting a fellow, I recognize there's the expense there, but that it may be worth it depending on the capacity it would take to develop our own platform. And I know that's kind of already a packaged program, and they sort of specialize in that type of budget engagement. So just looking for administration's thoughts on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment, because as the discussion is going, I'm realizing I need to provide clarification. So when I say we could do it in-house, it would not be like the Othello. It would be a very simplified version, maybe 18 questions. But Othello is a company that specifically does this for municipalities and has developed a program, and we just provide the information to them, and then they provide the statistics, and they help us a great deal. So when I say in-house, it would be perhaps a meeting where we'd have an open house and residents could come in, or we'd do a Survey Monkey with 20 questions, or it's not going to be
Interactive as this was.
Yes, it will not be like Othello.
Yeah, because I remember pretty much a sliding scale, and you could sit, and it would just affect everything else. If you drop something else or lower some, you'd have more money to play with.
That's correct. So you would start with you'd put the amount of what your house is worth or assessment. You'd put that in, and then if you said fire services, I want those to increase, then it would show how your taxes would change. So it was somewhat educational. And then if you, in say Parks and Rec, you decrease, same thing. So you have residents making decisions like council
Yeah.
needs to.
Yeah, I think it was really effective. So I like the, myself, I like the Othello version.
Okay.
My question would be, so the money, did we budget that?
Yes.
Rough budgeting, so it's in there anyways?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions of council?
So Shannon, again, given that information, yeah, I like that idea. It not only gives us information, it also provides a little bit of kind of education to our ratepayers about how decisions have to be made. You have to weigh them one off against another. So I do definitely like that idea.
Was that enough feedback for you?
That is
Move
enough
forward?
feedback.
So it's
Thank
very
you.
positive, seemed supportive, so.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
We don't need a motion directing that because it's already in the budget and everything. So,
That's correct. Yeah.
so on the report itself, is there anything further that you want, or just highlight that?
Not at this time. Taxes are now, they were due June 30th, so that's done. The final date for assessment has passed, which was June 28th. Administration plans to do a report on collectability and provide that information to council. And also in August, there should be a Q2 report coming to council. And we had 16 new applicants for the TIP in June and 42 in July. And those are kind of the highlights.
The applicants on the tip, is that individual, or is some of those are big group roles? Would it be by the role itself?
By the role, I
Okay, so
believe.
if one company has multiple roles, that would affect that number quite a bit.
Yeah, so currently you need to fill in an application for each role.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Any questions on the report? If not, I will make the motion that council accepts the June 2022 Corporate and Financial Services Report as information. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much. We move on to 4.22, comparison report for in-camera and out-of-camera. There's lots of information here. Go ahead.
Good afternoon again, Council. At the June 21st regular Council meeting, administration was directed to prepare a report to Council of the amount of in-camera sessions in the last 12 months compared to open sessions and bring this information back to Council. As you can see, we have a 2-page report, and we have included the date of the meeting, the amount of open session, recess, in-camera times, and the percentage of the time spent in camera at each meeting, and also the sections. We were not able to provide a time for each section of VoIP at this time, but there is the information for you.
Okay, thank you. Is there questions on the report? For myself, I believe the topics on the end kind of differentiate if there would be questionable ones and kind of give you, but some of it is very straightforward. Sure, if there's any questions, now's the time to ask. Go ahead, Councillor Larson.
So if I'm reading this right, every session that we had an in-camera session in this report, correct?
That is correct.
Ranging from 100% of the time to 14% of the time. I don't know what the average would be, but
Do we have any way to gauge that with any other municipalities to see if we're similar size? Like some of the business we deal with is, I think some of the land matters, it takes quite a bit of time to go through. But I don't see any way around, like, is that even appropriate to ask another municipality that? Like, just trying to see where we're gauging, because we're looking at ourselves. So.
I think what's difficult with this report is that there are certain topics that will require a great length of time to discuss. And each municipality will have their issues that will go in camera, and so that's the difficult part. I think going forward, all I can recommend is that we do our very best on administration's side, and like we did with the AV refresh, we talked as much in public about it as we could and said to council, okay, if we talk about this, then we need to go in camera. So we can do that. And likewise, again, we talked about this at the last council meeting, that when we go in camera, we can also, during our discussion say, do we really need to talk about this part in camera? Or can we just talk about this, and then once we're done, we come back out of in camera and go back into the public and finish the discussion. So that's kind of my recommendation of the approach that we take going forward.
Councillor Kester?
Yeah, I look at this as a benchmark. We've done it. We've got something we can measure against, something we can improve against. I added all the numbers up, just an open session and in camera session. I didn't include the recess part. And it was just short of 38% of the time council was in camera. So that's a target for us for the next coming to us to beat that. And I'm thinking we shouldn't have much trouble. We just have to be a little more diligent when we are in camera, like Tracy said. This isn't. We should hold off. But if we're aware of it, if you can measure it, you can beat it, right? So, yeah. Use it as our benchmark. Compare it for next year. If we've already got it set up, all we have to do is put the numbers in once in a while. It's an easy thing to track.
So Shannon here.
Go ahead.
I agree that we should always be diligent about what we're talking about in camera, but it all depends on what we're talking about. I mean, if it's a business deal, we have to speak in camera, and you can't shut that off at 40 minutes out of every 100 or whatever. Like, I understand it's good to see. It's interesting to see. I don't think that we should be shooting for any particular target. If we happen to have a lot of new developments happening that we need to speak in camera, then that's what we have to do. But I do definitely agree that when we're talking about things that are questionable, we should be questioning them, and that's good. And I think we're all aware that we need to be cognizant of what we're talking about in camera and what we're having discussions in open sessions. But I don't think we're trying to meet a certain target of number of minutes spent in camera or out of camera. That's just my thoughts.
Thank you.
I didn't mean it as a target. I meant it as a benchmark so we can compare year to year. I didn't say beat it or add 5%, nothing like that. It's just a benchmark. See how you compare year to year. I'm well aware of what we can and can't talk about in camera. Yeah. And I'm thinking I heard you say beat it, so I'm just wanting to be clear about it. That we can certainly compare, but I don't think that it's a measurement of success or not success. That's all I'm saying.
Good discussion.
Deputy Reeve Clausen, Reeve-Link.
Go ahead, Reeve-Link.
Yeah, I would echo your comment, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Good discussion. I would also echo Councillor Laprisa's comments. And my apologies, I had another commitment during the council meeting when this matter arose. And my apologies, I'm not aware of the discussion at that time. But I guess for me, I am somewhat just wondering about the value of spending time tracking this, given that there are so many complex factors that weigh into the amount of time spent in camera, even percentages could be somewhat misleading in a way when you have, obviously we had one meeting that was 100% in closed session. Things like that can just skew averages, which can be sort of not provide representative data. And then because of the diversity of the FOIP exceptions for going into a closed session for a municipal council and our requirements to meet FOIP in, for some matters, requirements, for other matters, there's some discretion. I would take the position that council has always been committed to being in open session as much as possible, and that we have used discretion throughout my experience on council. I've seen our council use discretion when we're in closed session. I completely agree with administration that we need to be committed to doing that and moving into open session whenever possible, but also just acknowledging that there are certainly matters that are appropriate to be in a closed session. And I would echo Councillor LaPriest that that is not necessarily, I don't see closed session as necessarily negative or positive. At times it's to deal with matters that might have a negative connotation, and at times it's certainly to deal with matters that have a positive perspective on them. So just looking at constraints to our staff capacity and looking for just the value in analyzing this. I guess curious about that, and my apologies for not hearing the previous discussion and rationale for it.
Yeah, I can speak to that too. We at the last meeting discussed it and thought it wouldn't be a bad thing to just get it out there and daylight it and see where we're at, because we don't know. We only, as each meeting goes by, we look at it. Even by daylighting it, it shows our honest look at what we're doing. And yeah, the percentage is, 100% for an hour and 25 minutes is, it's not, it kind of skews it a little bit. I see that, but I know today we, with that one discussion we had, there was, staff did say that, like, we can go this far and talk about it if you want further information. I think that's great. That's what we need to do. Well, it's just information. I think I've said this before about our council. By us posting our council meetings, we open ourselves up to more criticism from people at home, and they see the computer shut down or whatever, there's blank spots. Whereas with, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it would be people in the audience, and it would kind of be a little different. So, and the media picks up on it. They can pull our meetings anytime and look at it and pick blurbs of our conversation. We've had that discussion before too. So, so it's good information. I don't know if we need to do it all the time, but it's something to keep in the back of our minds and have a base mark to go from, I guess. Go ahead.
And I think that was fundamentally what I was looking for out of this. And I talked to Tracy about this. In a bigger political entity, there would be a parliamentarian that would take care of this stuff. We don't have that luxury here. But I think I would 100% agree with Tracy that as long as we're being diligent, and I mean, I would look mostly to administration because they're the experts, but as long as we're being diligent about what needs to be in and what needs to be out, that makes us much more open and transparent, which is what we're claiming to be.
Any further information or discussion? Not a motion to accept this information.
I'll move that we accept the in-camera sessions and open session comparison report as information.
There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion before I call the question? If not, I will call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. 4.31, Community and Development Services Report.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration presenting the Community and Development Services June 2022 update on 206 of your agenda package. Just going through some high-level points here. I think one of the most important ones to highlight, of course, is under Economic Development on page 206. Continuing that next level Welcome Gateway signage project, Council may have seen that the first signs have been installed There's 3 based on my last update that have been installed, and then obviously we have the balance of our first phase to be installed. So you'll note them, particularly the one I see every day coming in from west to east on Highway 1. It's installed near Origins Business Park, the Welcome to Wheatland County sign. So we're very pleased with that first phase and how that's coming along. So please take note of that, of course. Economic development continues on with some busy scheduling, attending trade shows, and the rest. Our economic development officers getting out there, which is quite nice. Of course, you'll see on page 207 and 208 dispatch calls, emergency statistics for fire services. Another item to note on page 208, we're hoping to bring first reading of the updated municipal development plan to council after council recess later in the summer, which is quite exciting as well. We've done an extensive engagement initiative throughout the last couple of years with residents, with council being the steering committee, with our internal departments as well. So we'll be excited to bring that forward for council's consideration and review for first reading at the end of the summer. With that, that concludes my report. I'm here for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Questions for staff? It's quiet today. Motion to accept its information.
Move that council accepts the June 2022 Community and Development Services report as information.
Thank you. It's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. We'll move on to 4.31. No, 4.32. Annexation of former school lands, Village of Hazar. This doesn't happen very often. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt again from Administration. On page 214 of your agenda package is the comprehensive report with respect to the history and what is next for the annexation of the former school lands in the Village of Hazar. The legal land description is noted in the title and in the resolution. This is basically a housekeeping item to finalize the administrative process on Wheatland's end with respect to the Village of Hazar's initiated annexation of those school lands. Everything is identified in there for Council's level of comfort. All steps with respect to this annexation process have been completed and followed as per the MGA. The Village of Hazar CAO is leading this process, and the administration for Wheatland County is providing that supporting role all the way through, and we're acting accordingly throughout this entire process. So ultimately, the final administrative stage for Wheatland County is to get this resolution through to authorize the REEV and CAO to sign the Wheatland County portion of the annexation agreement. We do have the annexation agreement here that is signed by the Village of Hazar's Council, which they passed this resolution last week, and so we have that here to sign today. That concludes my presentation. There's a lot of supplemental information for your information, but just for council level of comfort, again, those processes have been followed and led by the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Lots of information in the package. For myself, I think it's
Councillor Laprise here. I just want to say that this looks like excellent intermunicipal cooperation for both parties. It looks like a lot has gone into it before my time, obviously, but it looks awesome. I think it's great that we can just come to an agreement this way. It's awesome.
Thank you for the comments. Myself, I agree. I was going to say it's probably the easiest annexation I've ever seen. Usually annexations
There's
are...
one at Rocky Ford too.
Was there one similar? Yeah. But, you know, when you look
Well,
at
same easiness.
our neighbors to the larger centers, it's a court battle usually. So it's really nice to see and good collaboration. So we need a motion for anybody that wants to make it. Councillor Larson.
I'll move that council... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Councillor Larson had beach to it.
I'll move that council
betcha.
authorize the REEV and CAO to sign the Wheatland County portion of the annexation agreement between the Village of Hazar and Wheatland County for the lands located at southeast 142420 west of the 4th Meridian, which will form Appendix 6 in the annexation application to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal.
Thank you for the motion. Any motion on the floor? Any discussion? If not, I will call the question. Is there any opposition? None, hearing none, that is carried. Move on to 4.41, Transportation and Agriculture Report. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the monthly update for the Transportation and Agriculture team. Starting on page 251 of the agenda, I've just highlighted some capital projects. So notifications were sent out to landowners along both the MRO projects to be completed this season on June 17th. So Range Road 254, the second lift of MRO for that road from Highway 1 to Township Road 240. And that's scheduled for completion June 27th to July 8th. And first lift on Range Road 245 from Highway 1 to Township 250, which is scheduled for completion between July 11th to July 29th, of course, weather pending. The contractor began work on the 272 slide repair June 6th, and work is anticipated to be completed by the end of July. Moving on to page 252 under operations. So just a general note that with the heavy rainfalls, there have been quite a number of small slides, culverts collapsing and such on the roads. Our operations teams are doing their best to catch up to all of those issues, and they are doing that on an ongoing basis. And just a note to council and public and ourselves: just be patient as we catch up on those things. But our crews are actively looking after those matters. Directional signage for Duck Lake Road is being installed on Highway 564 and Highway 561. On the facilities side of things, we've completed the fire inspections at the Clooney Hall, Gleason Library, and Nameka Hall with our consultant. And so those inspections will be reviewed, and any deficiencies will be added to operational and capital budgets in the future. There was a matter that came up in the last council meeting, just an update on that in regards to the Hussar Fire Hall and the cost sharing on that. So just as a quick update, the utility cost sharing on that hall is split 50-50 between the council and the fire association, and administration is continuing to do a full review of what that looks like with all of our fire halls and what those agreements are, and council can expect a report back on that in the future. Also, a question that came up during the last report was in regards to contracts and services for waste services. So the services include providing and managing various size roll-off bins for waste and recycling purposes, compost containers, porta potties, and septic tanks and cleanouts. The sites include all waste transfer sites, grader shops, the administration building, the public workshop, Severn Dam, and the Eagle Lake parking lot. These services operated in the county for some time now. However, there appears to be no records of formal agreements in place. It's thought that these services were initiated on a very small scale, but they've grown to a cost and scale that a formal tendering process should be implemented. And so administration is going ahead with that now and looking at tendering those services out. Administration is hoping to save some operational costs by combining these services into a single agreement as well, and through the competitive bid process. Actually, one item that I'll add that's not in the report is just an update on the Murfield wastewater treatment plant. The council members may have heard that there was an outage of that plant. So our operations team did a great job keeping services going at that plant. We did have to truck in some potable water to that plant while some repairs were made to the filter system in the 2 treatment trains. And we did send out notice to the community there for reduced water usage. It looks like the community did a great job responding to that. We did see significant reduced water throughout the repair period. The repairs are done on the first train now. The filter's been replaced and that's fully operational. And then we'll be looking into doing the same repairs on Train 2, replacing that filter. Also, our operations staff is looking into that, just in terms of general future planning for those filters. We do have scheduled this year still a full condition assessment of that plant, which as we go through that, it'll bring up likely some other issues, but that we can better plan for once we better understand the conditions of that plant that the county's managing now. On the agriculture and environment side of things, roadside seeding is complete and roadside mowing and spraying is underway. Bertha armyworm trap set up June 9th with counts occurring through to July 21st. Soil health field tour July 12th at Wheatland County Office and Valley View Ranch. And the Alberta Invasive Species ID guide is now complete, and the guide is printed and can be purchased from the Alberta Invasive Species Council, and there is a link to that website in the agenda. That concludes my report. Of course, at the end of the report, there's a detailed list of tables of each of the areas of the activities, capital projects and operations and agriculture and environment activities that council and the public can review. And we're here for any questions.
Great, thank you for your report. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Kester.
Yeah, have you seen an agreement for the Hazar Fire and Municipal Building when they built it?
Through the Deputy Reeve to Councillor Kester, we had this discussion about the agreements with respect to ownership of that fire station and the delineation between that and that letter that came forward. Staff are working on that, and they intend to have a report back to council after the council recess. They're on track to put that together, so we'll get further information on that for council as concluded in that council.
But when we built the shop, maintenance yard, was there an formal agreement in place on who funded it and contributions from each party and the agreements?
I think to that end, I wouldn't be able to answer that question. I don't know if GM Bullock could, but that'll certainly form a part of the report.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if you have it or not. Okay.
Any further questions? I don't know if you can answer this. It's probably administration, but we did a committee of the whole meeting. I've had people ask me from Muirfield about the water rates bylaw. When will that be coming back to us?
Yeah, sorry, we don't have that information at hand, but we can have that conversation with CEO Henderson. Unfortunately, he's not here today. So
I understand people are anxiously awaiting that foreseen change, probably. So, any further questions? If not, a motion. Up as information, I believe. Hang on. Yep.
I'll move that council accept the General Manager of Transportation and Agricultural June 2022 report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, it's carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 4.42 Redland Potable Water Servicing Update Progress and Plan.
Good afternoon, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the potable water servicing progress update and plan. So this report was prepared for Council just in follow-up to Council Resolution CM 2022-05-24, which directed administration to move forward with council deliberations on a county-owned infrastructure at Redland, a debenture to pay for a share of it, and to facilitate community engagement. So this report and the recommended resolutions are just as an update, and also just to clarify and give further direction to administration from council for proceeding with this initiative. So starting at the bottom of page 263, what this report also outlines is essentially the process and the requirements for following a local improvement plan according to the MGA. So in the original presentation that was provided for this, there was a brief presentation about the MGA requirements. We thought it might be prudent just to give council a little bit more detail on the process involved there, because the recommended direction here from administration is to follow that local improvement plan, and so we're just hoping to get some direction on following that plan if that's what if council so wishes. So the administration has also scheduled a community engagement for July 11th at 7 p.m. And so this will help form the outline or the content that is presented to the community at that time as well, if council does direct administration to go ahead with following the local improvement process as outlined in the MGA. So with council's decision to investigate the installation of a county-owned water distribution system in Redland, administration's recommendation is for council to follow the process detailed in Division 7 of the MGA for the decision-making, the planning, the communicating, structuring the cost-sharing and payment plans, establishing bylaws, and executing the work associated with the installation of a water distribution system within the community of Redland. So Division 7 of the MGA details the required process for planning and the planning and execution of local improvement projects. And a summary of this section of the MGA is presented below. So just to outline, there's 7 main points just to talk about in this report. We've taken, I think, the more salient points of the MGA for consideration if council chose to direct administration to follow the plan. So one would be just to define the local improvement, what that means according to the MGA, the requirements to initiate the creation of a local improvement plan, major required contents of a local improvement plan, procedure following the preparation of a local improvement plan, preparation of a local improvement plan tax bylaw, and then other information and considerations related to that division of the MGA. And then we've also included, if we were to follow those requirements in the MGA, a preliminary estimated schedule of how long administration feels it would take to go through that process. So on page 264 near the bottom, local improvement definition according to the MGA. So a local improvement would be something that council considers to be of greater benefit to an area of the municipality than to the whole of the municipality, and that is to be paid for in whole or in part by a tax imposed under that section of the MGA. So the process to initiate a local improvement, just again at the top of page 265. So there's 2 ways that the MGA outlines that local improvement can be initiated. So one is council may on its own initiate the process of a local improvement. And then another is that a group of owners in a municipality can petition the council for a local improvement. So this would follow the same petition processes as any other petitions, except that there's a couple differences here. So that the petition would need to be signed by at least 2/3 of the owners that would be liable to pay for an associated local improvement tax. And then those owners who sign the petition must represent at least half of the assessed value of the parcels of land that would be impacted by the imposed tax. So in consideration of the ratepayer presentation and council discussions that have already occurred in the past, And in consideration of Council's recent resolution regarding this matter, it's recommended by administration that Council would use the mechanism of initiating the local improvement process through direct Council resolution, just feeling like we're beyond that point. And so that represents the administration's recommendations for this for a decision by Council. In Section 3, the local improvement plan contents quickly. You need to describe the local improvement and the location, identify the benefiting parcels of land, state the basis for how the distribution of the local improvement tax would be proportioned to each of the parcels of land, provide the estimated cost of the local improvement, indicate the period over which the cost of the local improvement will be spread, provide the proportion of the estimated cost proposed to be paid by the municipality from revenue raised by the local improvement tax and then other sources, and then any other information the proponents of the local improvement tax, the proponents of the local improvement consider necessary. So that goes into preparing that plan, and then the proposal is that administration, if council directed, would prepare that plan, look at what the infrastructure would be, summarize the estimated costs, as well as work with our finance department and planning departments in determining how those costs would be distributed, and then come back with a plan and a recommendation for council's review and alteration and approval. Once that's done, then the next process would happen starting in 4. So after the local improvement plan is prepared, the municipality would send notice to persons who would be liable to pay the local improvement tax, and the notice would include a summary of the information included in the local improvement plan, including what infrastructure would be in there, who would be liable to pay any local improvement tax, and also what that payment and distribution looks like. At that point, there is a 30-day notice period where individuals who would be subjected to the local improvement tax can also again petition to council if they want to cancel that local improvement. And again, same process. That petition would require 2/3 of the owners representing at least half of the assessed value. Following that, if there is no petition that meets the requirements of the MGA, the council would then need to pass a local improvement tax bylaw, basically in order to enforce the tax as well as go ahead with the capital project. And then the MGA, I haven't included it in the report, but the MGA does detail what needs to be included in that local improvement tax bylaw. Some other information and considerations that may be of interest to council. So a variation in the local improvement tax bylaw. So subdividing, consolidations, or changes in a plan of subdivision may all require revision to the local improvement tax bylaw such that each benefiting parcel of land bears an appropriate share of the local improvement tax. So in this case, if there was a parcel of land where the water distribution line ran past, which later becomes subdivided, we'd have to go back and revisit that bylaw just to make sure that subdivision or that new parcel of land shares in the local improvement tax for the community that everybody else is subjected to. And that may even include, if it's a new parcel of land, of that new parcel of land helping to share or helping with the cost share of the infrastructure, and actually depending on how much tax has been paid by the existing landowners, it could be even a reimbursement to the existing owners. However, whatever the timing, whatever that looked like. So the municipality share of the cost. Council may, by bylaw, require the municipality to pay any part of the cost of the local improvement that council considers to be of benefit to the whole municipality. This bylaw must be advertised if the cost to be paid by the municipality exceeds 50% of the cost of the local improvement. Private connections to a local improvement. So the municipality may construct private connection for water or sewer from the local improvement distribution line to the street to the street line or to the property line if approved by council. And then the cost of constructing the private connection must be imposed against the parcel of land that benefits from it, and the owner of the parcel has no right to petition against its construction. And that's just a quote from the MGA there. On page 267 is the recommended schedule or an estimated schedule that we've put together. Obviously, this would need to get finalized if council was to approve this, and then we would update it as needed. But starts on July 5th today, so if council were to pass a resolution, that would kick off the formal process of the local improvement plan. Administration would then conduct the preliminary engineering and costing. This work is actually based on the prior resolutions from council has already been initiated, and so administration we do have a consultant working with us that is producing some preliminary engineering for what the system would look like based on the information that administration has now, as well as some preliminary costing for updates for just to kind of verify the information that we've had to date. July 11th is the scheduled meeting with the community, and then administration is looking at approximately August 8th for completion of the local improvement plan, in time for the August 16th council meetings, presenting to council. If council directed administration to continue on with the process at that point, we would then send the notifications to persons liable to pay the local improvement tax, and then which makes September 23rd the end of the 30-day notice period where individuals could petition. October 4th for the production of the bylaw, and then detailed engineering complete October 20th, project tendering November 17th, and then we're recommending a spring 2023 construction date after that period, such that we're not constructing this line within the winter months. That could be pushed, of course, if council wanted. There's just administration's recommendation in order to get better pricing for tendering and having a better construction season. So that concludes the report, and then there are the 3 recommendations from administration related to this. So the one would be for council, if they wished, to direct administration to proceed with the production of the local improvement plan and follow that process. Following that, administration would provide a summary of this process to the Redland residents as well, and that's resolution 2. And then resolution 3 is just directing administration that once that plan is complete, to bring it back to council for review prior to proceeding further with the process outlined in the MGA. So that concludes the report, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you for the thorough report. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Kester.
If we approve this today, that only leaves 4 days for the residents of Redland. Are you going to go down and put a note on every door, or how are we going to notify them for the meeting?
So we have sent out notifications already, just in relation to the past resolution that council provided for us to just go ahead with the process, and so those have been sent, and then we're also going to be contacting them directly, or both mailing as well as taking it to them physically. I guess the content of that presentation with the residents may change slightly depending on what administration decides today.
Okay, as long as they're notified, because mail is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no more questions, do you want me to read the whole motion?
I believe we need 3 different motions broken up.
Is it 3 different, or they're all hinged to one?
What would administration prefer?
They kind of speak to one another, so the rationale for putting the and further. Typically, we split up if there's resolution 1, resolution 2, resolution 3, so feel free to read the entire resolution if you'd like.
Did you say read or as presented? I can read it. that council direct administration to proceed with the preparation of a local improvement plan in accordance with subsection 393 sub 1, section 394 and section 395 of the Municipal Government Act to provide the water distribution infrastructure required to supply potable water to all interested landowners within the community of Redland. And further, that council direct administration to present to the property owners in Redland during the scheduled July 11, 2022 community engagement session. Information about the local improvement process is defined in Division 7 of the Municipal Government Act, specifically as it pertains to the installation of portable water distribution system within Redland. And further, that council direct administration to present at a later date the proposed local improvement plan to council for approval. Prior to proceeding with sending notification of the local improvement plan to persons that would be liable to pay the local improvement tax.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. Move on to 5.1, correspondence. One letter in there from our library board. Motion to accept as information.
I'll move that council accept the letter as information.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Now I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that is carried. We have one item for discussion in camera, and I would like to add another one after what's just a little discussion today. Kind of an after the SAGE report. There was some. So I will move us into closed session. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. So we have a couple people on the line. We'll have to take 5 minutes probably to get them. They have different numbers they have to dial into, correct?
I think it's a link, council.
Yeah. If that works and is acceptable. Yeah. Is that acceptable with people that are online?
Will somebody send me the number? I don't know.
Well, it sounds like we can keep you on this line because you're the only ones here and you can lock it down.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay.
Just a note, Scott, would you like me here? We can do the brief conversation prior. Do you want me here prior to doing the other matter and everyone else can move?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so I'll stay.
Conference lock.